So here we are, this is our fifth and final video where we're beginning to make marks into the cylinders. Now remember, these marks that we make, they are going to be meaningful to us in some way. So you may want to revisit the drawing workshop that we started with. The drawing workshop was very much about warming up, about feeling free, about making expressive marks, maybe making up patterns, maybe making up symbols. And now we're going to use them to tell our story. So you might want to take a photograph of your finished cylinder, and you might want to just draw over the top using paper 53, for example, on your iPads, or you might just want to sketch out some of those designs on paper before you make the marks into the clay. You might just want to start making the marks into the clay. Either way, it doesn't really matter. This is your cylinder, your story, your way. Spend a little bit of time over this. Remind yourself of the marks that you made and the story that you want to tell. And having been through the process of making, you might actually go back and make new marks. These are some of the tools that I've used for mark making. These are actually icing tools, so I bought these in CDS. They are for sculpting and decorating sugar. You can use anything really. You can even make your own stamps. I also recommend that you have a little play with some of the excess or scrap clay that you've got left over. Have a play with some of the marks that these make as well, because these will also suggest where and how you place these marks to tell your story. You can see that I keep looking at the drawing, and the drawing is very close to me, so I can keep referring to it. You can also see that every so often I just wipe the pin, because as you scrape through the drying clay, it creates little burrs. Another point just to remember is not to let it dry out totally. I would do this either on the same day of making, or I would keep this wrapped up in cellophane or a plastic bag so that it's totally airtight and you can come back to it the next day and start making the marks. It's quite nice making those marks while it's leather hard. You could add patches of flat clay again if you wanted to. This time you would have to slip the clay, so you'd have to make a little slip, which is liquid clay, using the water, and patch it on a little bit like cement, just because you're putting dry onto wet. So it's not too late to add on, but again, don't add on things like handles or anything coming out. We want a flat surface and maybe just slightly raised like relief. I'm only using the hairdryer to dry off areas where I think it might be a little bit weak, or where I've finished actually and I know that I'm done. Another thing that you can do is just wipe it gently with a sponge, so you can get another smooth finish. But again, children, water and sponges, be careful because they want to soak the lot. Just get a sponge or a brush, get rid of the excess water and give it a wipe so that you actually clear away the surface, and making that quite smooth. After a while, the pot is actually dry and sturdy enough to pick up. It's what we call leather hard, because I can still scrape into it and make a mark, but I'm not actually going to be changing its shape. There's enough water in there that if I put it in the kiln, it would actually explode because there's still water in it. So it's what we call leather hard. You still have to be really fragile at this point. Sometimes I lay it out on a pillow or on a cushion if you feel that children might be a bit heavy-handed, but it is a nice way of introducing light touch. Spend a bit of time with this. It's a really lovely thing to do. Children may decide to tell you stories, they may decide to keep their stories to themselves. I think it's entirely up to them. They may be able to explain some of the symbols, they may have just made them up as they go along. But always refer back to that story and the purpose of why we were doing this in the first place. And I would just say, just enjoy, reflect on some of the things that you've learned, and maybe think about how you may take that a little bit further. So the next stage is for this to dry out completely. It will then be really brittle, so keep it safe, keep them safe somewhere, wrap them up in some bubble wrap, lie them down so they don't fall over, lie them down in one of those great big vegetable boxes that you get from Lidl, and then at some point in September I can come and collect them, or you can drop them off to me and I'll get them fired, and the next time you see them will be an exhibition in November. Good luck.